How do you plead?
Not guilty, my lady.
In a statement read out by his lawyer, Oscar Pistorius says he didn't intend to kill Reeva Steenkamp.
This occurrence was indeed an accident in that I had mistakenly believed that an intruder or intruders had entered my home and posed an imminent threat to Reeva and me.
But the state disagrees.
We argue that the accused version during the bail application and today cannot be reasonably possibly true, should be rejected, and as the only inference from the circumstantial evidence would be that the accused shot and killed the deceased with direct intent to kill.
Let me bring in eNCA Larson and Pagamile Hlubi into our conversation now. Both of you watched as the momentum in this case continued to grow. That first day, was it anything that you anticipated? What was the atmosphere like?
Well, I remember seeing the bail application, watching Karen's reports, and thinking at the time that Oscar Pistorius looked like a little fox or a choir boy that had literally been skinned alive. That intense pressure in that courtroom, and I think I even phoned Karen to say, was he really crying? I mean, what? I'd never seen anything like this in a courtroom before. And by the time that it got to his actual trial in the North Gauteng High Court, he seemed like such a different man. He seemed much older, and he was pale, and he was gaunt. And he looked like someone absolutely exhausted.
This man was our hero. He was our superstar. This was the guy who had, overcome the worst odds. And for him to be reduced to a criminal, I think for so many people, it was hard to wrap our minds around, not just as journalists, but just as ordinary South Africans. And I think that was, for me, the biggest thing about this case.
And just from what they're saying, Karen, what was it about this case that made it so different,
I think the vast majority of criminal cases that we cover involve people who are really life's losers, who, when you hear them arguing in mitigation of sentence, you hear stories of broken educations, broken families, histories of alcohol and drug abuse, and involvement in gangsterism, an entire kind of conflation,
usually very poor,
disadvantaged people, a conflation of social ills that have led them to a point where they have done something terrible. Oscar Pistorius is not that person. We in the media often deal in narratives, extreme narratives. So we either have a person who is totally heroic, or if it's someone who's done something terrible, like engaged in serial rape or attacks on children, they are totally evil. And this case was very, very difficult for a lot of people to deal with, because they had one narrative and they wanted to replace it with the other. And somewhere in between, this sort of greyness, there existed this human being who literally, in front of the eyes of the world, was vomiting in a courtroom into a bucket when a pathologist described how his bullets had torn the body of Reeva Steenkamp apart.
Let's continue looking at the media frenzy around the court case. It was at its peak on the first day of the trial, and it was a story that had all the elements of grabbing attention.
A forest of cameras outside the court and in the sky. Hundreds of journalists from around the world. There is a small tent city of broadcast equipment and foreign correspondents across the road sheltering from the rain. Many of them were here when Madiba died.
Nelson Mandela and Oscar Pistorius are, strangely enough, probably two of the most famous, well-recognized South Africans in the world. In America in particular, many people might actually know the story of Oscar Pistorius in detail more than Nelson Mandela.
Intense interest around the world, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I don't think South Africa will ever see an event again like Madiba's funeral and the 10 days of mourning for him. But this comes quite close. But it's a universal feel. It's Romeo and Juliet.
Oscar Pistorius' trial is taking place in Court GD.
It has all the ingredients which would interest people across the world. It's got a sportsman superhero who overcame disabilities, and he, because of either an incredible, terrible accident or because of what he decided to do. A young woman's lost her life.
After the break, we get to the heart of the court process and bring you the state's case against Pistorius. Stay with us.